Hello everyone and welcome back to Just Finish Coding. This is part 5 of our 3D Elf Run series which we're making on Scratch 3. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Just finished coding.
Now I have to interject here that if you've not watched parts 1 to 4, please watch them before you come here because as you can see, I'm picking up from where I left off, and for this video to make sense, you need to have watched the previous ones. I will leave a card for you right here. Please watch the videos and then come right back. If you're still here, I'm going to assume that you've watched parts 1 to 4, in which case you should have quite a bit of your game set up, and in this video we'll be setting up the instructions as well as the title. So let's get right into it. First I'm going to head over to the instructions, and as usual I'm going to start this code with a when I receive init. And remember, init is the message that we receive at the beginning before the game actually begins. So when we receive init, I'm going to start off by initializing a variable. Okay, so just click on make a variable and make sure I click this box which says checkbox which says for the sprite only. So I'm going to call this variable show instructions, and this basically controls whether the instructions of this whole instruction sprite is shown on the road or not. So if it is shown, it means that the game hasn't begun yet, and that's the way we're going to control it. Okay, so initially we'll set show instructions to yes, because at the start of the game we want to make sure that the instructions are shown. But I will also make sure I show it. So just add in a show just like this. Okay, so next we can grab a when I receive a tick, and this is where the game actually begins. So I'm going to start this by showing because I want the instructions to show right when the game begins. And even if the instructions is hidden, it's not going to be because we have the hide in place. It's just going to be because the ghost effect is set to 100. And in case you don't know what the ghost effect is, it's just the transparency. Okay, so after we show, I'm going to enter into this slightly tricky if then. So after you have this if then set up, you can grab an equal to and put in a 0 on the right hand side. And after this, you can head over to sensing and grab this block which says backdrop of stage and change that to be the title. So by default, it would change to exposition of title, and that is what we need. So the reason I'm doing this is because the variable won't be available in the variables category because the exposition of the title is a local or private variable. And as a result, the only way we can access it is through the sensing. So the title, by the way, is this sprite, and we have programmed nothing in it yet, but we will do all of that in this video. So after we check if the title position is 0, this is basically the queue. So if it is 0, then what I will do is I will set show instructions to yes. And after this, you can just get out of the loop because this is the only reason I'm in it. Now next we can get into another if then. And in this case, I'm going to check if either of the arrow keys are pressed. So you can grab an OR. And by the way, in case you're making the A and D keys work as well for the player, then you need to add in 2 more nested ORs to make sure both the A and D keys are added right here as well. So first we can see if the right arrow key is pressed, and then we can see if the left arrow key is pressed. So in case the right or left arrow key is pressed, then all we have to do first is set show instructions to no, because at this point the game is starting. And I will also enter into another condition like this, okay? And you can put the set out of that if then, and within this condition I will just have once again an equal to, but I will simply be checking if show instructions is set to yes. So if show instructions is set to yes, then I will make a new variable and this time set it for all sprites, and this is called the score. And I'm going to do it in all uppercase just so that it's easier to keep track of it. And you can also hide it from the list of variables. So here we will set the score to 0 because at this point it means that we are restarting the game. After this, all we have to do is make sure that the instructions goes to the correct spot, and this should be available by default, but in case you don't have it, the coordinates would be -8 and -130. So that's where the instructions need to be all the time. And this is where we can get into the ghost effect. So you can grab an if else from the control category, and you can check if the show instructions is set yes. You can just duplicate that from above And if it is set to yes, then we can pretty much leave it as it is basically. But if it is set to no, then what we have to do is change the ghost effect by 20. And remember, this tick is going to happen every single time we pass through, a game tick. And I'm not sure if that sentence made sense, but basically it'll be happening all the time. So if we keep changing the ghost effect, after 5 different ticks, the ghost effect is going to be set to 100, and beyond that it really doesn't matter because the image is going to be transparent anyway. So this would eventually make sure the image goes transparent. And if show instructions is set to yes, then what we will have to do is make sure that the instructions is actually visible, and we need to basically clear all the ghost effects in that case. So you can just grab a clear graphic effects from the looks category, and this would make sure that your entire program works fine. Okay, so next we can get into the title, and here as usual I'm going to start off with a when I receive init. So when we do receive the init, first we're going to go right at the front because the title is going to be pretty much the heading, right? So it's going to be right above, although it really doesn't matter in this case since the player isn't going to be colliding in it, but it's just good to add that. So let's add in a go to front layer, and after this we need to add in a show, but I will keep that after we set up the x and y coordinates. And I'm not sure why I went to variables there, but yeah, so go to x0 and y16. That's going to be the start of it, and I'm just going to hit that so that you can see how the title is going to look initially. So it looks pretty great there. And now we can get into the when I receive tick. So when I receive a tick, first I'll be checking if the show instructions variable of the instruction sprite is set to yes or no. So first I'll check if it's no. So you can just grab an equal to, change that to no. And once again, we need to repeat the same trick. So head over to sensing, put that in like this, change this to instructions. And you can just say if show instructions of instructions is set to no, then we do as follows. So first of all, I will be checking if x position is set to 0. So you can grab an equal to from operators, and this may seem a bit weird, why would we check if our own x position is set to 0, but believe me, this is going to make sense. So you can grab the x position variable from the motion category, and in this case we'll set game over. So set, and I think I didn't have the game over variable set up yet. So you can set this up, not fame, but game over. So this is going to be a Boolean value, and it's going to check constantly whether the elf has crashed into one of the cars and the game hasn't begun yet, or whether the game is still going on. So you can set it like this, and I'm not entirely sure where that variable went. So I think there's a slight bug with my Scratch software, so I will check this out and then I will be right back. Okay, so I am right back, and as it turned out, it just wasn't responding here for a second, and I'm still not sure what went wrong. So anyway, we need to set the game over variable in this case to be no, okay? And this is because the game has only begun if this title is at 0, because remember, show instructions is going to be set to yes in case the title is right at the center of the screen. I mean, not at the center, but you get what I'm saying. And in case the title is at the center, which is x equal to 0, only then do we set game over to no. Otherwise, if the title has moved out and we have our background scrolling here, then it means that the game is going on. So anyway, I'm going to move this to the side for a second because there is quite a bit of code I need to add in here, and this is where I'm going to change the movements. Okay, so once again, this is a bitmap image, and we want it to go out of the screen smoothly. And to do this, we have to use the same trick we used in the background, and that is to make sure that the image, changes its sizes abruptly. So we can set size to 600. I know I used 400 earlier, but 600 works well with this. So you can add in a set size to 600. After this, we can change our x and y. So you can grab a change x by, and we'll change x by -8 because we need to move to the left. And we will change y by -4 because once again we need to move slightly down. So after we're done with these two things, we can set the size back to 100, and I'm not sure where that is. Yep, there we go. So set size to 100, and after this I will put in the if then just like this. Alright, so I'm gonna add in one more show here because this is pretty important, as I'll be hiding the sprite later on. And once you're done with that, you can get into the next if condition. So grab an if then, and here we'll be doing in some pretty tricky stuff. So first of all, we'll be having an AND condition. And within this AND condition, I'll first be checking if game over is yes. So this is only going to happen when, the player has crashed onto one of the cars. And we will also put in an OR in the second and just follow me along here. You will start to get how this is useful. So first we'll be setting an if x position is less than 0. So I'm going to put in a 0 here and grab the x position variable from the motion category, just like this. And the other condition would be if the spawn countdown of the background variable, the background sprite. And once again, we need to use that same trick. So change this to be background, and then you will be able to get this variable which is spawn countdown. So we can grab once again a less than. In this case, it's going to be a greater than, so I'm going to put in a greater than like this. So we'll be checking if spawn countdown of the background is greater than -28, which is when we basically means all the spawn guys are out of the screen, okay? That's when all of this is going to occur. So first of all, I'll be setting the size to 800 just to make sure that the sprite would still fit in the screen and not get, pushed out. So we will say set size to 800. And after this, we'll go to the extreme left end of the screen. Okay, so we will go to X is going to be, I believe, 440 and Y is going to be 226. I will check those numbers in a minute, but just make sure you add those two things in. So after this, we will be setting the size back to 100 and we will also be hiding it. So add in a set size to 100, and also you can pick up a hide from the looks category right at the end. And I just realized that the number was not 226 but 236, so my apologies regarding that. And I also forgot to add in one more line of code before we hide, and that is to make sure we go right at the back. So you can basically go back 999 layers to make sure it's, behind everything else which is currently going on in the screen. And that is pretty much all we will do in this video. So your instructions should be working temporarily, but the rest of the code would be pretty much still stuck. So there is a lot of code that we need to fix up, including this title, the cars, which will need to be made a little bit slower. But we have made some progress, and this is going to be extremely easy to fix in the next couple of videos. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like, and also don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.